The breaking news yet again, you will see history happen before your very eyes. Within the hour, Boris Johnson is expected to leave the doors of number 10 for the final time as Prime Minister. He will resign as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. You've heard that all night. Now, let me explain, because there's a process that you need to understand here about how this has come about. Now, like Australia, the UK does not have a direct election system. Instead, the Prime Minister is chosen by others, not directly by normal voters. Now, in this country, we have a scenario where the MPs of the governing party end up picking their Prime Minister. In the UK, what happens is that when it's the Conservative MPs will decide between two people who could become Prime Minister, and then the paid up and proud members of the Conservative Party across the entire UK have the chance to then choose who becomes party leader and, by virtue of having a majority in the Parliament, becomes the Prime Minister. Now, the reason Boris Johnson goes in the next hour is because, as you know, there was a vote a few weeks ago where the majority of his backbench didn't want him to be there. But there are a huge number of people who have ministerial or deputy ministerial positions in the UK government. In the past 24 hours, more than 50 of those people have said that they will not serve under Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. So even as Boris Johnson has tried to replace some of those people, the people on the backbench say, we won't take those jobs, therefore you can't have a government without a ministry, and therefore Boris Johnson has no other option other than to resign, something that, again, he will do within the next hour. So right now it's 8 o'clock Eastern. Here in Australia, it is 11 o'clock right now in the UK. The expectations are that he will speak very close to midday. Either side, I don't know. But the expectation is that one of the reasons this is dragging out today is because there's a conversation happening about whether Boris Johnson leaves number 10 as Prime Minister today, or whether he will be able to effectively stay on as caretaker Prime Minister until the Tory party is able to pick its next leader. Now, several people on the backbench, and understandably the opposition parties, believe that can't happen. They believe that Boris Johnson has to go today, and that Dominic Raab, the current Deputy Prime Minister, should step up to be the caretaker Prime Minister for a process that can take as long as 3 months to pick an alternative leader, because there are those two elections. There's the party room election, and then there is the vote of Conservative members. Now, the Conservative membership loves Boris Johnson. They will be furious about what is taking place right now. But obviously, after a series of scandals, and I'll detail some of these because in Australia, you might think this is something to do with Partygate. This isn't necessarily about Partygate. Instead, there is a straw that has broken the camel's back, and I'll explain what that was and why ministers themselves stepped forward and did so in the past couple of days. But we are on tonight for 2 hours because we want to be there for either side of the speech. We will have full coverage with experts from the UK, including our very own Piers Morgan, will join us live from London a little later. But that is the scene right now out the front of number 10. Now, Boris Johnson is an example of the type of politician that is crash or crash through. Now, generally speaking, people who are crash or crash through politicians can have incredible success. The end is always ugly, but they crash through when they're running for the Mayor of London. They crash through when they become the Foreign Secretary. They crash through when they become the leadership contender. They crash through as a Prime Minister. Now, Boris Johnson, of course, was at one time a biographer for Winston Churchill. And like anyone who knows any history about Winston Churchill, you fight till your last breath, to your last moment, to your last bullet, on the beaches and all the rest of it. Now, of course, Winston Churchill was able to be Prime Minister of the UK twice. Whether Boris Johnson thinks he can do that or not, who knows? But again, the maths just doesn't work for him. He has 80-seat majority in the Parliament, yet because he can't fill those 50 separate ministries and people won't join from the backbench into his government, he has no other option than to resign today. Now, there are a few little expectations coming out of the UK about what might happen if Boris Johnson goes into caretaker mode. With what would he do with those couple of months as Prime Minister? Now, he has the full authority as the Prime Minister, but presumably wouldn't get the capacity to pass much through the parliament. Well, the plan today was that Boris Johnson was going to make a major economic statement. That major economic statement was going to include major tax cuts. Now, there are still some assumptions inside people in the UK that he still may push ahead with that if he remains as the Prime Minister. There's some expectation too that if he remains as the caretaker Prime Minister, he may well put his hand up again in the leadership ballot of the Tory party. Now, these are the extreme scenarios, but when somebody is dragging as hard as Boris Johnson is, despite the fact that the maths and the politics doesn't work for him, the idea that he still remains fully functioning Prime Minister after he resigns, just like the American president, after they lose an election, they remain in power for the end of November, all of December, until the 20th of January. There's still plenty of time to do something, well, at least with the stroke of the pen. But as I say, that's the news tonight. In the next hour, you will hear from Boris Johnson at number 10. When we see more movement, you will see it live on the screen. We will keep a live shot up of number 10 so you can see if that door starts to move. We will, of course, break into anything else that we are planning to do tonight.